All right, let's get straight into it. We're looking at an urgent military briefing on this conflict that's just exploding in the Middle East. And this is all based on the very latest intelligence coming in. So boom, February 28th, 2026. This is the day everything changed. The United States and Israel launched a massive military operation against Iran. And let's be clear, this wasn't some warning shot. This was the opening salvo of a full-blown war. And it instantly pulled the entire region into the fire. The first 72 hours were just a blur of incredibly fast escalation. First, you have the initial strikes. Then almost immediately, the top of Iran's leadership is taken out. And right on the heels of that, Iran shuts down one of the most critical trade arteries on the planet. I mean, the speed here is just staggering. Okay, so let's break down that initial strike. It was a joint operation with two major parts. Epic Fury, that was the US side of things, and Roaring Lion, led by Israel. And they were carried out in perfect coordination. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. You've got to look at what they said they wanted to do versus what they actually did. The stated goals? Simple. Stop Iran from getting the bomb. And, get this, encourage mass protests inside the country. But the reality on the ground? Overwhelming force. We're talking Tomahawk missiles, drones, more than 200 Israeli jets hitting almost 500 targets. That's a huge disconnect, right? And going in that hard from day one? Well, that comes with a whole lot of risks. And, this wasn't just about blowing up buildings. No. A key part of this whole thing, right from the first day, was taking out the leadership. We have confirmed kills on the Supreme Leader, the Minister of Defense, the IRGC commander, the whole top brass. This was a classic decapitation strike, designed to create chaos. So, with their leadership gone, what does Iran do? Well, you can bet they weren't just going to sit back. Their response came fast, and it was huge. And they didn't just target Israel. Nope, they went after the entire region, aiming to cause as much economic and political damage as they possibly could. And when I say huge, I mean it. We're talking more than 1,500 projectiles launched by March 3rd. That's a massive barrage of rockets and drones. The goal was pretty obvious, just completely swamp the air defense systems of the US and all its allies in the Gulf. And look at what they hit. This is the really smart, or maybe terrifying, part of their strategy. They didn't just go after military bases. They hit the Ras Tanura oil refinery in Saudi Arabia, shutting it down. They hit Dubai's airport. They even hit Qatar's LNG facilities, grinding production to a halt. In one move, they turned this from a regional fight into a global economic crisis. And just like that, the shockwaves went global. The battlefield was no longer just in the Middle East. It was now in the stock markets, the oil futures, the whole 9 yards. Then came the official word from Iran. We will not let a single drop of oil leave the region. That statement on March 2nd was the moment everything truly went global. This was no bluff. It was a promise to squeeze the world's economic windpipe. And believe me, the markets felt it instantly. How did the markets react? Well, it was immediate, and it was brutal. Brent crude oil shot up 10%. But look at European gas oil. That's basically diesel fuel. It jumped 20%. That's the kind of thing that grinds transportation and supply chains to a halt, thousands of miles away from the actual fighting. So, you might be asking, who really depends on this little strip of water? Well, pretty much the entire industrial engine of Asia. We're talking China getting almost 40% of its oil from there. India, South Korea, Japan, they're all massively dependent. When their economies get squeezed, trust me, we all feel it in the global supply chain. Okay, so we've got military chaos, we've got economic chaos. What about the diplomatic fallout? As you can imagine, the world's powers had a lot to say, and they were not on the same page. It was like a switch was flipped. You immediately saw these deep geopolitical lines being drawn. On one side, you had Russia calling it unprovoked aggression, and China demanding a stop to it all. And on the other, you had countries like Australia, Canada, and Ukraine lining up to support the US and Israel, a totally divided world. Now, what about NATO? This is important. They weren't jumping into the fight directly, but several key European members got involved right away in defensive roles. You had France deploying jets over the UAE, Italy, Spain, and Greece were all defending Cyprus, and the UK played a huge role by letting the US use its bases. So, while not on offense, they were definitely in the game. So after all this, after these just devastating opening blows, the big question on every analyst's mind is what's next? What does the future even look like for Iran now? And what does this mean for the rest of the region? I mean, think about it. With Khamenei and all the other top dogs gone, who's in charge? They've cobbled together something called a temporary leadership council. This isn't some planned succession. This is a desperate move that just screams power vacuum. It shows you just how unstable things are at the very top in Iran right now. Which, of course, brings us back to the most important question of all for any military analyst. Did it work? Did the strikes actually achieve what they were supposed to? So let's look at the scorecard. On one side, the stated U.S. goal: eliminate the nuclear threat and get the Iranian people to rise up. The outcome? Well, Iran's military and leadership are in ruins, no doubt about it. Catastrophic damage. But that second part, the popular uprising, there is absolutely zero evidence of that happening. It just didn't materialize. And that leaves us with one final, really unsettling thought. By taking out the regime's head, crushing its military, and throwing the whole region into chaos, did this operation actually prevent a greater war? Or did it just light the fuse on something far bigger, far more violent, and far more unpredictable?